I've seen fashion brands that just pump out everything and they don't do any QC checks. Not us though. I'm gonna give you guys the full specification. Welcome back. This is Community Questions, where we answer questions from you, our audience. Let's dive into these questions. VM8 asks, any brands known for having a lower tolerance to look out for? I'm not gonna name names here, but pretty much a lot of fast fashion brands that are online that might make it difficult to do returns are gonna have lower tolerances. If the clothing feels cheap and poor quality, for the most part, it probably has very low tolerances or none at all. I've seen fashion brands that just pump out everything and they don't do any QC checks. If you're paying $5 for a shirt that's been shipped across the entire world, you really have to think about what are the economics of actually making that feasible. And a big part of that is no quality control. BNCT asks, what is considered a reasonable time for fade to set in, like 25 washes? So when it comes to garments fading, one is the dye chemicals themselves, and two is actually a physical change to the garment. Let's cover the physical change first. Cheaper clothing, it starts pilling, it starts losing fibers, it starts getting fuzzy on that surface. And those extra lifted fibers diffract light differently. That is what's going to cause it to have a little bit of like a white haze on your clothing. The second reason is going to be the dye stuff itself. You're gonna have the 3 different dyes, which we covered in the main video. A lot of cheaper clothing, they really pack in those dyes, but they haven't made a chemical bond. That first wash, it stair steps down. Between wash 1 to 5, it becomes a drastically different garment. A really good dye is gonna be more gradual. It's gonna be a very small change between wash and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Find its baseline where it settles on. Those are the 2 main reasons of why garments fade over time. Barney Lawrence asks, could average staple length be usefully listed on labels? Or would brands find cheap ways to provide staples that are technically long but don't have the value of good long staples? So for the most part, if a brand is going to be using a longer staple fiber, they will absolutely list it because they are paying for it. If you're gonna be using Pima cotton, you're 100% gonna be listing Pima cotton on your label. You are onto something though, because when it comes to capitalism, there's always gonna be bad actors that try to figure out ways around the system. And that's where you get things that are saying ring spun, because people have heard of the term ring spun before, but they're using really short, poor quality fibers. So the only way you can really tell right now is brands that are spending the money will put it on their label. Rars asks, at this point, we're just waiting for you to open a store so we can just buy from you, bro. Would you ever do a limited drop of some staple pieces, some black tees, nice pants, etc.? So this is actually probably one of the most popular questions we have had on our channel consistently since we started, is when we're putting out our own product. I really want to make sure it was something really special. It literally took 2 years of technical development and negotiations to get this project up off the ground, but it is coming in the next few weeks. I'm actually wearing the shirt itself, and this shirt has been through 50 washes, and you can see how well it's held up. So stay tuned for that. It is coming soon. Editor, give them a little teaser. Guys, this is a big moment. It took well over 2 years to get to this point. I really hope you guys like this. Lauren asks, just an idea, but why do more expensive brands seem to run smaller? So brands are always going to be running their sizing depending on their target market. And for a lot of luxury brands, they're following European sizing or also targeting the Asian market. And Asian European body types just happen to be smaller. Mr. Big Moz asks, let's say in the case this one manufacturer uses good fabric and the other poor fabric. How much of the GSM can you expect to lose after 1 wash? Wouldn't you lose fabric if it's pilling? It depends, because if that fabric was very loosely knit and after the wash it shrinks up, the weight can actually go up. However, if it's not loosely knit and there's going to be fibers that will come loose, in case of, let's say, a fleece that's using 100% cotton, that is the case where the weight itself will drop. After watching this, I now demand brands should provide a spec sheet on every piece of clothing they sell. So you'd actually be surprised how multi-billion-dollar brands know about their specs. The extent of some brands' knowledge of their specs is, we found this fabric, we like it. Do you have something similar? Sometimes it goes as much as GSM, but brands are really more about marketing these days than product development. If they were to be providing their specs, they could say the weight, which is why sometimes you've seen that. They can say the composition, but very few brands will be able to delve deeper than that. Not us though. I'm gonna give you guys the full specification. Could you talk about care labels a little more? Is it okay to wash 30°C tees on 40 to avoid having to run as many loads? Is it okay to ignore tees that specify gentle or very gentle program? The higher temp you wash, the higher temp you tumble dry, the more destructive it is for a garment. You really have to think about when you are wearing a t-shirt and you put it on in the morning and you go throughout your day, you're not really damaging it that much. But when you throw it in a wash and it's being pushed and pulled and twisted for an hour, and then you put it into a tumble dry to do the same thing. And a lot of people mix in heavier items like denim with lighter items. That shirt is getting beat up in your wash. So yes, you could in theory wash at a higher temp. What I would say is most clothing you can actually cold wash. You'd be surprised. Your clothing doesn't get as dirty as you actually think it does throughout the day. Hasna asks, I'm from Bangladesh and seemingly rejected shirts that are sold here have so little to no defects that I'm sure nobody would notice or care. Why don't brands just take them and sell them at a discount? One is brands will have their own standard. Two is that when you are taking damaged products and selling them at a discount, you're automatically taking your possible customer that would have paid full price and now give them a discounted product. Three is that different markets will actually have different expectations of quality itself, to the point where some very large brands will have different quality standards depending on the city that they're selling in stores. So it's really going to be dependent on what market are you servicing, what are customers' expectations of quality, and that's really going to be defining what brands keep and what brands reject. Remy asks, I feel like I should have paid for this. Thank you so much for that. It really means a lot to us. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that video, a lot of late nights, a lot of debates on how to get that video done. We really tried something different to try to push the boundaries of what would be reasonable for an educational video on YouTube. This really just shows us that you guys love it, you appreciate it. What that means to us is that we're just gonna keep pushing the boundaries of what is reasonable for a YouTube video and continue to over-deliver on what we can provide you guys. So thank you so much. Juby Climbs asks, are loop wheel t-shirts actually worth it? When it comes to loop wheeled shirts, view them as almost like a vinyl record. Is it the most efficient, the most sensible way of listening to music in today's age? Probably not. But does it have character, representation of a time period? Yes. Then get a loop wheel t-shirt. Is it going to be your day-to-day driver? Probably not. Eric writes, what I learned from this video, Egyptian cotton is actually a thing, but it's not called Egyptian cotton. People have latched onto that marketing term and have just ran with it. That is why you can get Egyptian cotton bed sheets that are so scratchy, feel like shit, because people have just grabbed that marketing term and it's not as tightly regulated as a term like champagne or Sapima. There's just gonna be a lot of brands that will slap Egyptian cotton on the label. Know that you'll never actually check, cover it with silicone, and then by 2-3 washes later, when your bed sheet feels like shit, you're too late to actually generate a return. That is unfortunately the dark side of marketing. Hell, I've purchased myself Egyptian cotton bed sheets in the past before I knew what it really was and wondered why they felt like shit. That is it for this episode of Community Questions. Don't forget to head to shiftfashiongroup.com to join our wait list for the shirt launch. And if you want to be featured in a future video, leave your questions or comments down below. Thanks, till next time.